Good evening. I'm Dan Smith, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to UCSB's first conference on global medicine. Tonight and during the next 2 days, we will be introduced to some of the world's most effective approaches to health and healing by some of the most respected people associated with these traditions. Tonight we are very fortunate to learn about the ancient and contemporary practice of shamanism and shamanic healing from Michael Harner. Michael Harner is considered by many to be the world's leading authority on shamanism, has practiced shamanism and shamanic healing since 1961, and pioneered their return to contemporary life. He is founder and president of the Foundation for Shamanic Studies in Mill Valley, California, and with the aid of the foundation faculty, provides training worldwide in the core practices of shamanism and shamanic healing. Formerly chairman of the Graduate Faculty Department of Anthropology at the New School for Social Research, he has taught at the University of California, Berkeley, as well as at Columbia and Yale, and has served as co-chairman of the anthropology section of the New York Academy of Sciences. During the past 50 years, he has done field work in Western North America, the Upper Amazon, Mexico, the Canadian Arctic, and Samaland, or Lapland. His books include The Way of the Shaman, Hallucinogens and Shamanism, and The Jivaro, People of the Sacred Waterfalls. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Michael Harner.
Thank you. Well, it's really a pleasure to be here. I haven't been in Santa Barbara for quite a while, and it's just as lovely as ever, and to have a captive audience is even better. So I hope you'll feel it's worth your while. First of all, I want to thank Dean Dan Smith for organizing this Global Medicine Conference. It's just the sort of thing that very few academic institutions are prepared to do, and I like to see California again leading the way, and particularly what's happening here. And I think there'll be a number of very interesting speakers over the weekend representing a lot of systems of knowledge. Tonight, my responsibility, of course, is for my own specialty, shamanism and shamanic healing. With the drum beaten at the range of 4 to 7 beats per second, which, by the way, is the same range as theta EEG waves, and probably not coincidentally, and with the proper preparation, training, one can enter these worlds in a very safe way. The drum itself will produce no effect to speak of unless you have training in what I call the shamanic state of consciousness. I don't use the word trance anymore because actually so many of our activities in life, as Charlie Tart has pointed out, are in a trance state. And of course the Shuar Indian people that I lived with, they considered this whole thing to be the false reality. But I don't go that far. I mean, I have to pay bills and so on, but basically there are many ways that one can enter in that reality. With monotonous percussion sound, you can do it as long as you can enter the shamanic state of consciousness, which a trance is something we might reserve for driving on the highway, watching TV or a computer screen, listening to our spouse talk, whatever. We use this all the time. We focus in on things. It's a very general word, and so when I use the term shamanic state of consciousness, I'm referring to a state where you have learned shamanic methods to some basic degree. You alter your state of consciousness, and then with discipline and purpose, you do work. The shaman is not tripping. Tripping anybody can do, but journeying, which is a classic shamanic technique, involves this kind of discipline and purpose. The journey of the shaman, as the great scholar Mircea Eliade pointed out, is probably the most obvious distinctive feature of shamanism. People often wonder, well, what makes the shaman any different from some other practitioner? Well, it's true that most everything that spiritual practitioners do in healing can be found also in shamanism, and that does not distinguish shamanism. But the one thing which is most clearly distinct about shamanism is the regular use of a journey to other worlds in an altered state of consciousness for purposes of helping, of getting knowledge. But beside it being the most distinctive, obvious feature of shamanism worldwide, it also is one of the most important. And I've found this out through many years of work, including work with, I would say, I don't know how many students I've worked with, probably 10 or 20,000, and in which, again and again, once the person is able to enter those worlds, the spirits take over and they do the direct teaching of that person according to that person's needs at that time. So the journey is not only a very distinctive feature, it also is a very basic feature. Now, shamans may be mediums or channelers, and often are, particularly as they're advanced, but that does not distinguish shamanism. So shamans can do many different things, but this thing of the journey is very, very basic. Now, the journey is made in 3 worlds, and again, I'm talking cross-culturally. When I talk about shamanism, I'm not talking about the shamanism of one particular culture here or one particular culture there, but I'm looking at it cross-culturally, looking at the basic principles and practices which are remarkably similar around the world. And I think they're remarkably similar not because our ancestors were so stupid they never could fantasize anything else, because after all they did create many different kinds of languages, many different kinds of kinship systems, many different ecological adjustments with new technologies. They weren't stupid any more than we're stupid. I mean, they were just like us. But what I am convinced is that over and over again they discovered independently on the various inhabited continents these basic principles of using the mind and spirit and spirits for healing and for getting knowledge, divination. And so there is this remarkable similarity in shamanic practices around the world among peoples that could not have possibly been in touch with each other unless you go back 40,000 years or more. The ethics of shamanism are simply survival. If you screw up, you're going to pay for it. And if you let your emotions, you're allowed to get angry at people, but don't ever let the spiritual side interfere. Get involved in that. One of the reasons I think it's really important to learn shamanic principles is that virtually everybody has shamanic abilities, but most people haven't learned about them. They don't know the discipline of them. So I think often when people get out of control, the spiritual side of our anger can also be, those powers can be directed to others simply because they're ignorant. You are humans. Whether your ancestors come from Europe, Asia, Africa, or wherever, shamanism once existed there. We are just attempting to go home to our spiritual roots. Before the state religions, the agrarian and centralized religions, rose up with autocratic governments and said, this is what you're going to believe, these are the official revelations, take it from us, you can trust us, we got it. And of course what we've seen is the decay of centralized governments in recent centuries, particularly in the West, but now elsewhere in the world. We've had the rise of political democracy. And one of the reasons shamanism is popular again is that we're trying to achieve now spiritual democracy. To retain and recover your old right to contact the spiritual realms yourself and get direct revelation yourself. Now, if you know how to get in touch with the spirits, they will teach you all these things. And so whether it's dismemberment, which is a dramatic example, or whether it's a simple healing technique such as extracting spiritual intrusions, these things are taught all the time to introductory students who have never heard of them. Because once you go back to the spirits, they are the true teachers, not somebody like myself. And that's why there's never going to be any place for a guru in shamanism.